Our next guest, Democratic Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, introduced the Price Gouging Prevention Act, which promises to crack down on corporate price gouging and protect American families from so-called greedflation. And Senator Casey joins us now. He's a member of the Senate Finance and Intelligence Committees and currently running for re-election in a race that could determine the balance of power in the Senate. Senator, good morning. It's great to have you with us. So let's start with this idea of price gouging. A lot of economists, not just conservative ones, but even more moderate and some liberal ones, believe that the margins are so thin at a grocery store that they're not gouging prices, that they're just trying to keep up with supply and demand. What do you say to that?
Well, Willie, here are the facts in terms of corporate America. This is what we're talking about here. The big companies, the companies that are producing food and the companies that are manufacturing household items, that's where the price gouging has taken place. Look, between July of 20 and July of 22, corporate profits rose 75% in America. That's 5 times the rate of inflation. And we shouldn't just accept it and say there's nothing we can do about it. We should point it out, as I've done in a greedflation report, a shrinkflation report, recently a streamflation report, streaming services doing this as well, the junk fees that the administration has worked on. So on a whole range of fronts, you've got corporate America, after getting the biggest corporate tax cut anyone can remember, jacking up their prices and just saying, get used to it, and bragging about it on shareholder calls. So we got to do 3 things. Go after them, and you use price gouging legislation to do that, and to give the Federal Trade Commission power it does not have right now. And secondly, to roll back those big corporate tax breaks, because obviously they didn't need them. But I think the idea that we should just throw up our hands and say, well, that's capitalism, is ridiculous. You've got, look, if a company has costs here and they offset it with prices, no one would dispute that or argue with that. But when they jack up their prices, hiding behind inflation or hiding behind the idea of the pandemic causing this, their supply chains, it's a lot of BS. We should go after them and investigate them. If they're not price gouging, they got nothing to worry about.
So, Senator, let me just read a quick passage from a piece in the Washington Post this morning, an op-ed that writes, quote, "It's hard to exaggerate how bad this policy is. It is, in all but name, a sweeping set of government-enforced price controls across every industry, not only food. Supply and demand would no longer determine prices or profit levels. Far-off Washington bureaucrats would. The FTC would be able to tell, say, a Kroger in Ohio the acceptable price it can charge for milk." Curious how you respond to that from the Washington Post, and who exactly decides when a price at the grocery store in Ohio is excessive?
Well, it's really not at the grocery store level. This is at the corporate level, Willie. They've been making record profits. We've never seen the kind of profits in corporate America the last couple of years. And when they're doing that, they're bragging about increasing prices. So my point is that we should give the federal government the power to investigate just run-of-the-mill price gouging, and you give the people an opportunity to fight back against them. As I said, if they're not engaged in corporate price gouging, they got nothing to worry about. But this is long overdue. People are tired of just accepting higher prices. Now, consumers obviously have a lot of power here, and because I've pointed it out for the better part of 9 or 10 months now, people are putting pressure, and some of that public pressure is working on some of these big corporations. But look, they've had it pretty good. They got the biggest tax cut imaginable, along with the billionaires. That's why they're attacking me in this campaign. They know I won't vote for their tax cuts, and they also know that I'm not going to give up on prosecuting this case on corporate price gouging, and people get it.
So, Senator Casey, as you just indicated, you're up for re-election again in Pennsylvania. As you go around, not just Western Pennsylvania, your home area, but the entire state, how do you cope with the fact that the Republican nominee for president nearly every day, and he did it again yesterday, he concentrates on fear of the future without Trump? There's a fear of the future, and this country is really a third world nation, all of the usual stuff that he's been spewing for a long time. How do you cope with that? What does your ear hear when you're out there with voters?
Well, Mike, look, all across our state, like in a lot of states, every state really, people are concerned about costs. this issue of gouging and the prices at food prices and prices for household items and so many of the things that we buy, whether it's hotel accommodations or renting a car, just hidden fees and all of that. So we hear about that a lot. And I think people want us to fight back against it and have proposals to do it. One of the best things we could do is what Vice President Harris, I think, will outline today among many ideas, something I've been a leader on, which is to give families raising children a greater opportunity to benefit from the child tax credit. We found out how to reduce child poverty, and I think we can help those families, especially if you have these prices going up for food all the time, or gas prices or anything else. We should give families the power to have the resources to manage those prices. But that's what I hear about most of the time: the high costs and how we can get them down. Now, the prescription drug win that we got yesterday, and the cap on insulin that's already been in effect, those have had the effect of, or will have the effect of, lowering prices for seniors. But we got a long way to go to lower costs, and I think she's speaking to that in the campaign.
And there was some good news in that inflation report a couple of days ago in terms of prices at the grocery store. Democratic Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, thanks as always for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Willie.